Welcome back to the DaBoot Tragedies. Saints lose to the Buccaneers in an absolutely crazy game, from fights to flags, just all type of nonsense, turnovers, a lot to get through in this game. I'm trying to talk calm because I know if I don't, I'm going to get carried away. I'm going to start ranting, but man, let's just start off with Jameis Winston. Absolute awful game from Jameis Winston. It's no way you can slice it. No excuses for him. I know he's hurt. I know he's this. I know he's that. But if you're on that field, hey man, I'm just looking at your play on the field. I'm not worried about the injuries. Yeah, I'm taking that into consideration. But if you're playing, you're playing. He played absolutely awful. He missed Olave for probably 2 touchdowns, threw obviously a lot of turnovers, a pick six, things you just can't have as your starting quarterback. I'm putting partial blame on the medical staff, Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, man. Obviously, he was not right. He shouldn't have been out there. But the facts are the facts. He was out there and he played absolutely awful. That probably was his worst game as a Saint. We'll just kind of go player by player. Then we can slide over to Jarvis Landry. Did not have the impact he had, in that in that Falcons game, coming up with big catches, big plays down the stretch. Didn't really see a lot from him today. Not saying it was his fault. I got to watch the game to see what was kind of happening in that secondary, the routes he was running, but didn't really have an impact for Jarvis Landry today. Michael Thomas had a solid game, nothing crazy. Did score a touchdown late, but he's still working back into the thick of things. But he looked okay today. Like I said, not great, not bad, just a solid game from Michael Thomas. Chris Olave, he should have had a spectacular game. Honestly, he should have finished this game with probably over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was that open. Jameis dismissed him on a couple throws. Did fumble that ball late, which he probably could have scored on if he stayed up, but ended up fumbling the ball. You can't have that. I know it was late. I know it didn't matter. It didn't impact the game, but you still can't have those things. He's a rookie. He'll get better from it, but I think he had the best game on offense from anybody today, even though the stats won't show it. He was open a lot. We just missed him, and we cannot miss him on those plays. I'll quickly go through some other players. Juwan Johnson had a good game, 4 catches, 40 yards. Mike Thomas, 6 catches, 65 yards, a touchdown. Olave, 5 catches, 80 yards, had 13 targets. He should have had way more stats than that, like I talked about earlier. Now let's talk about this running game, man. Mark Ingram, hey, look, you've had a good career, but you always are fumbling the ball. So, he has to get that fixed or he can't play. As simple as that. That was the biggest play of the game, that fumble in the red zone. The offense was moving, finally clicking on all cylinders. He fumbles. That should have been a 10-3 lead right there. But, of course, Mark Ingram goes and fumble, and that just changed the whole outlook of the game and obviously the fight, which we'll get to a little later. And for the Jameis Winston stats, I know a lot of y'all are going to come here and defend him, say he was hurt. This, that, the offensive line. It's going to be a lot of excuses, but he played bad. It's okay if he plays bad. We all like Jameis Winston. We all know he's quarterback 1, but he played bad. It is okay to admit when someone plays bad. 25 for 40, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, took 6 sacks, had a 55 quarterback rating, didn't run for first downs when he could have easily had first downs. Maybe it's because he's hurt, so he didn't want to take those hits, but it was just a bad game from him. And I will turn our attention to the defense. Defense played a hell of a game, man. Absolutely fantastic from the defense. Was good against the run. Let me go check out these Bucs stats. They had 30 carries for 72 yards. That's a 2.4 yards per carry. Average for net 24 carries, 65 yards, 2.7 with a long of 13. Tom Brady, 18 for 34, 190 yards, 1 touchdown. Was only sacked once, and he really didn't get sacked. He tried to run, and it was just an awful play by him. P.J. Williams gave up the only touchdown. He was in good coverage. I don't know why he stopped running. Held Mike Evans in check, 3 catches, 61 yards. Perriman, 3 catches, 45 yards. That was really it on that front. And on the defense side of the ball, man, Pete Warner once again had a really, really good game for the Saints. Was our best player out there. Finished with 8 tackles, 6 solo. Shy Tuttle had a really good game up the middle, 9 tackles, a half a sack. Evans played okay. He had gave up a couple of catches earlier to Mike Evans, but other than that, he had a really, really good game. Roby was much better. Much better today than he was last week. Marshawn Lattimore was super locked down. Only gave up 1 catch, 7 yards to Mike Evans, and it was like 3 drag routes combined running across the field. So he locked his bitch ass down once again. Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, they both played great. The whole defense as a whole, man. Demario Davis made some plays. Cam Jordan made some plays. Davenport didn't make any plays. We'll talk about him. Actually, we'll just talk about it right now. I still don't think he's in shape. I told you I'm giving him 4 weeks. I'm giving him a month before I start making my Davenport comments and statements, just because he didn't do anything all training camp, didn't do anything all preseason. So I'm just not expecting him to be in shape. I'm not expecting him to be up to game speed. It's just unrealistic to think of that from him. But if he's on that field, the same thing I said about Jameis Winston, I'm fair. If you're on that field, I'm going to grade you accordingly, and he hasn't done anything these first 2 games, and that has to change, especially a guy that's looking for a contract, a nice-sized contract for the Saints. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything for us this year. It's only 2 games. Like I said, no overreactions yet. I'll really give this team about 4 weeks before I can kind of start, saying what's really going on. Pete Carmichael, I think he had an awful game. And we got to put some of this blame on Dennis Allen. I know you're a defensive coach, but you're the head coach now. So now you have to take some of that blame from the offense. You have to get your offense going. Pete Carmichael, you have to get your offense going. I know they're going to say, oh, the Bucs are a good defense. The Bucs are a good defense. I don't want to hear that just because the Falcons wasn't a good defense and we couldn't do nothing against them either. And last but not least, man, we're going to get to this fight, this scuffle. Tom Brady, he's a sore-ass loser. He was crying the entire game, so the ref started giving him what he wanted. He's a bitch. I'm just going to be honest, man. Everybody, if that was anybody else in the NFL, they'll be getting killed. They'll be saying it's unsportsmanlike. They'll be saying he shouldn't be doing this as a quarterback. Let Lamar Jackson do that. Watch the outrage that happens if Lamar does that, Kyler Murray does that, any other quarterback does that other than Tom Brady. If Jameis Winston did that, oh, he's immature, he's this, he's that. But Tom Brady does, he gets a pass because he's a 45-year-old old bitch. And I'm sorry. Hey, if you don't like my language, turn this off because it might get filthy. I said I wasn't going to rat, but I hate Tom Brady, dude. I hate everything that dude stands for. When he's not getting his way, he's going to sit there and cry. He's going to sit there and bitch. He's going to sit there and moan, and the ref's going to let him do anything he wants. He started the whole damn scuffle. Then Fournette, who actually started to push, he pushed he pushed Lattimore, then Evans' bitch ass runs off the sideline, always come a sucker punch or a sucker push full speed into Lattimore. Lattimore just wraps him up. And of course the NFL watches that and like, oh yeah, let's get Lattimore out here because he didn't do shit. He just got pushed from the blind side once again from Lattimore. Lattimore's always getting locked up by Evans. He's always crying. He's always been a little girl, always been a little diva. I honestly can't stand Tom Brady and Mike Evans, dude. If they never do anything in the NFL again, they can both retire today, and it just make my dreams come true. They both are very, very unlikable people on the football field. That entire drive after that, the NFL just said, hey, man, the Bucs need to win this game. We hate the Saints. Look at them thugs out there fighting. Let's give them everything. They gave him an unnecessary roughness call to Roby on a missed tackle because he grazed the face mask. He barely touched the dude's face mask, and they gave him an unnecessary roughness. Then they gave Shy Tuttle a holding penalty when Fournette was trying to block him. That doesn't even make sense. The refs started making up their own rules for Tom Brady, and then, of course, they scored a touchdown on that drive. On a drive, they probably only had 20 yards. They got all penalty yards on that play because that's just what the refs do against the Saints. I'm not going to blame the refs for the Saints losing that game, but for that drive in particular, when they took the lead, the refs gave them everything they wanted on that drive, and it was absolutely nonsense. Roger Goodell, you are a clown. I see why Sean Payton low-key walked away, man. He's got to deal with teams and refs every year. It gets stressful. Hey, Dennis Allen, it's your turn. They're not going to give the Saints any breaks on the field when it comes to the refs. I'm honestly starting to hate the Bucs more than I hate the Falcons. They're becoming a menace to society. I hate everything about that team. The crying when they don't get their way. They just expect everything to just come to them because they have Tom Brady. And it does come to him when he starts to cry, as we saw today, man. As soon as he started crying, the ref started giving him anything he wanted. Fuck Tom Brady. Fuck Mike Evans. Fuck the Bucs. The Saints are 1-1. We on to the next, man. We'll see Carolina next week, and we'll dive more into this game later. But that's my initial thoughts after the game. Saints lose to the Bucs 20-10. That game was absolute travesty to watch. I might not even watch that film. It was that bad. As always, this DaBoot Tragedies. Send them out.